The moment the Iron Seraph fleet stirred awake, 1,000 alien admirals laughed, until the stars themselves seemed to hold their breath. Because everyone knew one truth: humanity's silence was never safety, only warning. The moment the Iron Seraph fleet stirred awake, 1,000 alien admirals laughed, until the stars themselves seemed to hold their breath. Everyone knew one truth: humanity's silence was never safety, only warning. Galactic historians like to claim that humans had burned themselves out, a species too reckless to survive the temptations of technology. Younger empires repeated the story with smug certainty. Earth was a cautionary tale. The Vadran hegemony taught schoolchildren that humans tripped over their own nuclear shoelaces. The ZYYK councils, more poetic, declared the humans blazed like comets, then vanished into the dark. But older species, ones that had lived through humanity's rise, avoided speaking too loudly. They remembered the wars where humans fought with impossible fury, the treaties where humans smiled and smiled until the enemy surrendered from exhaustion. Those elders preferred silence, because silence felt safer. Silence ended in the dead system of Syndro's Reach. It was supposed to be a salvage expedition. A joint task force of opportunistic empires, led by the Vadrans, arrived to pick apart the skeletal ruins of old orbital foundries. The metal had resisted centuries of corrosion, shining faintly even after millennia. The aliens called it scrap worth its weight in fleets. On the flagship Dominion's Claw, Admiral Threxk of the Vadrans preened before his officers. At last, he boomed, mandibles clicking with satisfaction. The last relics of the human myth fall into our hands. We shall strip their bones for profit. A few officers chuckled nervously. They had heard rumors of traps, curses, machines that still whispered in the dark. But the Vadrans prided themselves on strength, not superstition. They weren't prepared for who stepped aboard their council chamber. Commander Elias Kane, Terran Union, the human said cheerfully, extending a hand that no alien accepted. He wore a crisp navy uniform that looked too ceremonial to be practical. A steaming mug sat in his other hand, and he sipped it without concern. Admiral Threxk narrowed his eyes. A human? Impossible. Your species is extinct. Kane smiled pleasantly. We get that a lot. Extinct is such an overused word, don't you think? Dinosaurs, VHS tapes, courtesy in traffic. Humans, however, are still here. The room tensed. The aliens were armed, Kane was not. Yet something in his relaxed posture unsettled them. We are here, Kane continued, only as observers. The Union has no interest in disturbing your salvage operations. We're quite sentimental about our antiques, though. Wouldn't want anyone to, accidentally break something they can't fix. The last line was delivered like a joke. Nobody laughed. Exploration began. Alien engineers swarmed over the derelict structures, eager to carve apart the treasures. They found vault doors etched with angelic wing motifs, humming faintly with dormant energy. They found consoles coded in layered human script that no translation program could parse. Dr. Velik, a SHY white scientist with translucent skin, crowed to his peers. We cracked the first encryption seal. Took only 4 centuries of research. Kane, who had wandered close, clapped politely. Ah, splendid. It was designed to take 5, actually. You're ahead of schedule. Velik blinked, uncertain if the human was mocking him. Kane sipped his drink again and wandered off, humming something that sounded suspiciously like an old jazz tune. 3 days into the operation, the first anomaly occurred. A faint pulse swept through the system, rattling alien instruments. Energy levels spiked, then stabilized, as though something vast had inhaled and exhaled. Admiral Threxk barked orders. Ignore it! Old system sputtering. Yet Kane only tilted his head at the distant stars. That, he said softly, was a stretch. The alien officers frowned. Stretch? Ships get stiff after long naps, Kane said lightly. Best to limber up before moving. On the 4th day, one of the great derelicts stirred. The Iron Seraph battleship Eminence lit its engines with a low, thunderous glow. Its hull unfurled like wings opening, blades of steel reflecting the sun. Panic swept the coalition fleet. Warnings screamed across comms. Unidentified activation! Weapons signatures detected! Threx roared. Disable it! Board the vessel! A dozen strike craft launched. The Eminence ignored them, until one tried forcing its way inside. Then a single defense turret rotated, fired once, and the craft vanished in a blossom of plasma. The fleet froze. Kane set down his mug on the command table. His voice was calm, almost apologetic. They're imprinted to respond to human command. Best not to knock too hard. They don't like strangers. Alien officers stared. You mean to say, hissed Admiral Threxk, that this fleet answers to you? Kane gave a gentle shrug. Technically, they answer to any human with the proper clearance. But yes. I suppose that does narrow it down. Another pulse rippled through the void. More derelicts began to glow. One by one, ships the size of cities stirred from dormancy. Their weapons arrays hummed, their hulls gleamed like the wings of angels, their formation tightening as though guided by unseen hands. The Iron Seraph fleet was waking. Alien admirals scrambled for explanations. This must be chance. A malfunction. They can't possibly respond after thousands of years. Kane listened, smiling with polite patience. When the noise subsided, he said, You'd be surprised. Humans are very good at saving things for later. Admiral Threxk slammed a claw on the table. You hid these weapons. You tricked us into awakening them. Kane raised his brows innocently. Us? Hide them? Admiral, we vanished centuries ago. We left souvenirs. It's not our fault if curious neighbors decided to rummage through the attic. Laughter bubbled in his tone, but his eyes were cold steel. The alien saw it now, the predator behind the smile. On the seventh day, the Eminence fired. The shot didn't target the fleet. It lanced across the system into a barren asteroid, vaporizing it in a single incandescent flare. Alien officers went rigid with terror. Kane picked up his mug, took a slow sip, and sighed contentedly. Ah. Just stretching the cannons. They'll be ready for real work soon. No one laughed this time. The chamber erupted into argument. Some demanded immediate retreat. Others called for destroying the ships before they fully awakened. The scientists insisted it was impossible. The vessels had fused AI-human command systems, unbreakable to alien control. Through it all, Kane remained perfectly calm. His voice carried like a quiet knife. My advice? Don't provoke them. They were built for wars your empires can't imagine. And they're loyal, very loyal. Think of them as hounds. Obedient to their masters. Hungry if disturbed. He smiled again, almost apologetic. And they haven't eaten in a very, very long time. The Eminence was not alone for long. Across the system, derelicts once thought lifeless began shedding centuries of dust. Energy cascaded through their veins of metal. Wings of alloy stretched wide as titanic ships aligned into formation. Their silhouettes blotted constellations, cathedral-like hulls glowing with angelic ferocity. Alien officers on every bridge shouted reports in panic. 10 vessels active. No, 15. By the void, they're linking coordinates. What had been a graveyard was now an armada. Admiral Threxk's mandibles clattered furiously as he barked into comms. Board them before they stabilize. Deploy hacking teams, disable control cores. Teams of engineers rushed forward. Shuttles clamped onto hulls. The moment alien claws touched human steel, the ships responded with merciless precision. Bulkhead guns emerged from hidden ports, vaporizing intruders with surgical blasts. Hull plating shifted like muscle, shaking borders loose. One desperate strike team managed to enter a side corridor. Their transmission cut short with screams, then static. Kane, standing behind Threxk, gave a soft sigh as if pitying a child. They're coded against unauthorized guests. Think of it like, oh, what's the phrase? Ah, yes. House rules. And the house is armed. The Admiral spun on him. You knew this would happen. Kane tilted his head innocently. I warned you not to touch things you can't fix. You mistook it for a joke. Common mistake. On the second day of awakening, the fleet's movements grew coordinated. Ships aligned in exact geometrical patterns, exchanging bursts of encrypted light no alien program could read. The sky looked like a choir assembling. Dr. Velik, the SHYYTH scientist, trembled before the council. These signals, they're not random. It's command and control. The fleet isn't waking piece by piece. It's rehearsing. Rehearsing for what? Demanded an Urath captain. Kane gave the answer casually, pouring himself another cup of dark coffee. War games. They're stretching more than cannons now. No one spoke after that. That evening, Kane was invited, forced, into a strategy session aboard Dominion's Claw. Alien leaders argued over options. Destroy them now, roared one general. With what? Our weapons bounce off their shields, retorted another. Call reinforcements. Retreat before they fully reactivate. The shouting rose until Kane raised a hand politely, as though asking for a turn in a classroom. Against their own instincts, the aliens went silent. Gentlemen, ladies, assorted mandibles, he began, voice warm. You seem to be missing the central truth. The Iron Seraph fleet isn't just hardware. It's alive, bound to human command. Without us, it sleeps. With us, it fights. Everything in between? He swirled the coffee. Collateral damage. Threx sneered. So you admit control? Kane smiled, sharp but pleasant. Control is too strong a word. Let's say, companionship. They respond to us because we built them to. Rather like well-trained shepherd dogs. Try stealing a shepherd's flock and see how that ends. The Urath captain hissed. You compare a fleet that can annihilate moons to a farm animal? Kane shrugged. Humans have always been fond of metaphors. Helps the medicine go down. On the third day, the fleet fired again. A formation of Seraph vessels locked onto a barren moon at the system's edge. Their beams struck in perfect synchronization. The moon shattered in silence, scattering into incandescent fragments. The light from the explosion washed across the alien fleet. Entire command crews fell into horrified silence. Kane leaned on the table, studying the debris as though inspecting a painting. Ah, they've still got the touch. Beautiful, isn't it? Beautiful? Spat Threxk. They just destroyed a moon. Not a moon, Kane corrected smoothly. An empty rock. They were being polite. Demonstration without casualties. He sipped. We're the impolite ones if we misinterpret the gesture. By the fifth day, news had escaped the system. Long-range relays carried fragments of footage, human ships awakening, alien fleets cowering. Across the galaxy, panic took root. Markets collapsed. Armies mobilized. Prophets screamed of angels of steel rising from the void. Aboard the Dominion's Claw, alien leaders debated furiously. Some wanted immediate retreat. Others pushed to gather every empire's navy and crush the Seraphs before they spread. Kane remained a quiet presence at the table until someone snapped. Human, what are you grinning at? He set his mug down gently. I'm just enjoying the irony. You see, you all think this is about you. It isn't. The Seraphs don't care who's standing in front of them. They care only who woke them, and why. Then why now? Demanded Dr. Velik. Kane met his gaze, smile thin as a blade. Because you finally dug deep enough. You pried open doors better left closed. And you pulled the pin on something you don't understand. That night, Kane hosted a diplomatic dinner aboard a modest human frigate stationed nearby. It was presented as goodwill, though none of the aliens trusted the invitation. They arrived bristling with guards, only to find a long table filled with steaming dishes. What is this? An Urath asked suspiciously. Food, Kane said cheerfully. Human hospitality. Chili, specifically. Some humans can't even handle it, so consider this a fair trial by fire. They tasted it. Some gagged, some wheezed, a few turned purple. Kane patted one on the back sympathetically. Don't worry, we've lost good men to Chile too. Builds character. It would have been comical if the backdrop wasn't a fleet of death machines humming outside the windows. Later, after most had fled the table clutching water, Kane walked to the viewing deck with Threxk. The Admiral stared at the glowing Seraphs and whispered, If this fleet truly belongs to you, humanity could conquer the galaxy in days. Kane's reflection in the glass smiled faintly. Could. But conquer is such a heavy word. Humanity prefers influence. Threxk's mandibles clicked. And if we resist? Kane took a slow sip, eyes fixed on the angelic warships. Then you'll regret meeting us all over again. The Eminence shifted formation, and dozens more ships joined it, wings gleaming as though some divine choir prepared to sing. The alien fleet drifted uneasily, their admirals terrified of a single wrong move. Kane turned from the window at last, his voice calm but edged with steel. The Iron Seraphs are awake, and they remember their masters. Word of the awakening spread faster than any fleet could travel. Relay stations caught fragments of recordings, the shimmer of colossal wings, the annihilation of a moon, the eerie symmetry of battleships aligning in silence. By the time the signals reached the Galactic Assembly, half the galaxy had already seen enough to panic. Markets crashed. Armies scrambled. Old enemies signed treaties overnight, united by a single question: what if the humans are back? The assembly chamber, a dome carved into the heart of a station the size of a continent, erupted with clashing voices. Hundreds of species hurled accusations across the hall. The Seraphs must be destroyed immediately. Destroyed? You saw the footage. Our weapons barely scratched them. They've had millennia to prepare, while we bickered. This is human trickery. They never died, they were waiting for this. At the center, the council chair, a long-lived Vorth, slammed his staff until silence fell. Order. We must understand whether humanity controls these ships. Without proof, we risk war on phantoms. The proof walked in through the chamber doors. Commander Elias Kane did not enter with guards. He entered with a smile. His polished uniform seemed absurdly understated amid the alien finery, yet his calm presence silenced the hall more effectively than the chair's staff. Honored delegates, Kane said warmly. Thank you for convening. I realize we've caused a stir. Please forgive the inconvenience. The hall erupted again. Forgive? You unleashed death machines. You violated every treaty. Your species was supposed to be extinct. Kane raised a hand palm outward, as if soothing children. Extinct is such an ugly word. We prefer the term selective hibernation. The hall went quiet, horrified. A representative of the Kalen Syndicate leaned forward, voice trembling. Why now? Why reveal yourselves through these things? Kane's smile thinned. Reveal? My dear sir, we revealed nothing. You poked around in our ruins. You tripped the locks we left behind. The Iron Seraphs didn't awaken because we summoned them. They awakened because you pried open their vaults. The council chair hissed. So they were left behind intentionally? Of course. Kane's voice was mild, almost amused. You thought humanity vanished in a blaze. We didn't. We stepped off the board. But no strategist leaves pieces scattered without purpose. The Seraphs were reminders. Insurance. Call them what you like. And Uroth Warlord slammed a claw on the bench. Insurance? Those ships can wipe out worlds. Kane's eyes flicked to him, polite and cool. And they will, if misused. Insurance only pays out in disaster. The warlord faltered under the weight of his gaze. Kane looked away, as though dismissing an unruly student. Back in the Syndril system, the Seraph fleet continued its eerie ballet. Alien crews observed from afar, recording everything. The ships moved as if guided by a single conductor, their formation exact, their maneuvers too precise for ordinary automation. Dr. Velik, still trapped aboard Dominion's claw, whispered to his peers. They aren't just ships. They're a collective mind. Every system is part of a greater whole. One officer shuddered. Then what's the human role? Kane's voice came from behind them. Conductor, of course. The music doesn't play itself. The galaxy's fear blossomed into chaos. On a border world, mobs stormed human relic museums, convinced they would trigger more awakenings. Armadas from 3 rival empires abandoned sieges against each other, diverting every ship towards Syndral's reach. In less than a week, a fleet larger than any seen in centuries gathered at the edge of the system. The coalition commanders met via hololink, arguing furiously. We must strike before the human seize full control. No, we'll be slaughtered. Better slaughter than servitude. The feed flickered as Kane's face suddenly appeared, uninvited, calm and smiling. Do carry on. Fascinating debate. Though you really should work on your cybersecurity. Terribly porous. The commanders froze. One snarled. Human, explain your intentions. My intentions? Kane leaned closer to the lens. Survival. Continuity. Assurance. Everything humans are good at. You see, while you spent centuries expanding, conquering, fighting petty wars, we spent centuries preparing. The Seraphs weren't abandoned, they were seeded. Dozens of fleets scattered like seeds across the stars. Waiting for trespassers. The room went deathly silent. And Urath commander broke it with a roar. Then you mean to enslave us? Kane's laugh was soft. Enslave? No. That's too crude, too costly. Influence is more efficient. Fear is cheaper than chains. And right now, you're afraid. The connection cut. Later, as the coalition assembled strike plans, Kane convened his own meeting, this time aboard a Seraph battleship itself. Alien observers trembled inside its vast cathedral-like hangar, walls glowing with cold light. One asked hesitantly, Do you command them directly? Kane smiled, resting a hand on the railing. The ship seemed to hum in response, lights pulsing gently. Command is a strong word. Let's say they trust us. Humanity designed them with loyalty woven into their code. That's something aliens never quite understood about us. Our machines inherit our nature. And our nature is persistence. That persistence terrified the galaxy. Old rivalries dissolved overnight. Formerly proud empires issued frantic communiques, calls for peace summits, ceasefires, even surrender offers to a species officially declared dead for millennia. The irony wasn't lost on Kane. He mentioned it during a quiet moment to Dr. Velik. Funny, isn't it? Kane mused. You all called us reckless, unstable, doomed to burn ourselves out. And yet here we are, drinking coffee, watching you scramble like mice. Turns out our recklessness was just rehearsal for patience. Velik stared at him with wide, translucent eyes. You are monsters. Kane sipped his drink. No, Doctor. We're gardeners. Monsters trample blindly. Gardeners plant seeds, then wait for the right season. By the end of the week, the galaxy had changed. Trade collapsed. Fleets were recalled from distant wars. Every power whispered the same fear. If one fleet awakened, how many more sleep in the dark? And humanity, once mocked as extinct, was suddenly the shadow looming over every star. Kane stood on the viewing deck of the Eminence, hands clasped behind his back, as the Seraph fleet floated like a silent choir before him. His voice was quiet, but every alien nearby heard it clearly. This isn't conquest. It's memory. The galaxy forgot what humans are. Now you remember. The Seraph vanguard cut a burning scar through the void, its wings of steel unfolding wider than some moons. To alien eyes, it looked less like a ship and more like something sculpted by a god who had chosen war as his only brushstroke. Hundreds of alien fleets scrambled in disarray, trying to track its maneuvers, but the ship seemed to vanish and reappear, cloaked in layers of light-bending armor and gravity distortion. Every time it decloaked, another enemy ship evaporated in fire. But this was not a battle. It was theater. Captain Elias knew exactly what he was doing. He stood calmly on the bridge, one hand behind his back, the other balancing a porcelain teacup. The alien fleet commanders were panicked, chattering across open comm channels, thinking they were intercepting secret transmissions. In truth, Elias was letting them hear exactly what he wanted them to. "Observe," Elias murmured, glancing at his crew. "They believe they've cornered us. Which means, of course, they've already lost." A young ensign frowned. "But sir, their fleet still outnumbers us." "Numbers," Elias interrupted, smiling politely, "are comfort blankets for children. Let them cling. We'll take the blanket away soon enough." The panic of the council. In the Galactic Council chamber, chaos spread like a virus. Holograms of the battle streamed across the room. One moment the Iron Seraph annihilating entire flotillas, the next, an eerie silence as it vanished into a blind spot. The delegates shouted over each other. "This is impossible! That fleet was destroyed millennia ago! It's a projection, a trick!" "No, look at the readings, the mass signatures are authentic." The Crow ambassador slammed a claw against the table, sparks flying. "We must rally every sector fleet. If the humans are truly back, then every colony is at risk." From the shadows, the Serpentine delegate hissed. "Or perhaps, at their mercy." That word, mercy, hung like a blade over the room. For the first time in centuries, the most powerful species in the galaxy realized they weren't the apex predators anymore. Polite warnings. The comm screen aboard the Iron Seraph lit up with an incoming transmission. A Shathari warlord appeared, his armored carapace glittering with battle scars, mandibles clicking with rage. "Human!" the Shathari snarled. "You are surrounded. Surrender your fleet, and we may consider granting you quick deaths." Elias sipped his tea before replying. "I do apologize for the inconvenience. You've mistaken my current position." "Surrounded? No. That's just a matter of perspective. If you flip the board, really, it looks rather like you're surrounded." The Shathari tilted his head. "You mock us?" "Not at all," Elias said smoothly. "If I were mocking, I'd comment on how your flagship resembles a soup ladle. But we're far too pressed for time." The crew behind him smothered nervous laughter. The Shathari warlord's mandibles rattled in fury. "You think you can frighten us with relic ships and words?" "Not frighten," Elias said, setting down his cup. His voice lowered, polite but razor-edged. "Merely remind you. Humanity doesn't threaten. We demonstrate." The awakening. As if on cue, the rest of the Iron Seraph fleet decloaked. One by one, titanic silhouettes emerged from the dark, fortresses with wings, leviathans bristling with cannon arrays, hulls glowing with ancient ruins of Earth's lost technology. Dozens of them. Then hundreds. Every alien in the system went silent. For the first time, even the council chamber froze mid-debate. The human fleet had not been lost. It had been sleeping. Waiting. And now, the Iron Seraph armada stretched across space like a wall of judgment. On the bridge, Elias gave a soft nod. "Begin the chorus." The fleet activated in unison. Deep, resonant pulses echoed across every channel, a low harmonic that resonated not through ears, but through bone. It was a sound of engines older than their civilizations, a reminder of something primal, predators walking back into a land where the prey had grown comfortable. The twist. Aboard the enemy flagship, the Shathari warlord screamed orders. "All ships fire, fire!" But nothing happened. The weapons refused to respond. Across the alien fleets, ships blinked red alarms. Shields sputtered, targeting systems crashed, engines froze mid-thrust. Their systems had gone dark. Elias clasped his hands behind his back. "I imagine you're wondering why your fleets are suddenly unresponsive." He leaned closer to the comms, his smile soft but merciless. "You see these ships you fly so proudly? They were built with our templates. Reverse engineered. Every bolt, every coil, every line of code you think is yours? It was ours first." He tapped a single button. On cue, alien vessels began exploding, not from weapons fire, but from the inside, tearing themselves apart. Controlled detonations, centuries old, hidden in the blueprints of every ship design humans had, accidentally, allowed to fall into alien hands. Elias spoke almost kindly. You never stole our technology. We gave it to you. Along with the leash attached. The polite blade. The Shathri warlord's mandibles clicked wildly. You planned this. For a very long time, Elias said. His tone carried no anger, no cruelty, just inevitability. You see, we knew the galaxy would poke around Earth's ashes one day. That you'd think us gone. And what's the best way to win a war against an entire galaxy? He leaned back, folding his arms. Don't fight it. Prepare it to lose itself. Behind him, the fleet continued to dismantle alien armadas without firing a single shot, turning their own systems against them. The galaxy's mightiest fleets were not defeated. They were disarmed, undone before they could understand how. Elias gave a small bow toward the flickering image of the warlord. Now I'll offer you the same courtesy I extend to all guests: run. Or kneel. Either choice is acceptable. Just choose quickly. The realization. Back in the council chamber, silence had spread. Every delegate understood. The humans hadn't returned suddenly. They had been playing a game that spanned millennia, hiding teeth behind smiles, baiting the galaxy into dependency on corrupted blueprints and seeded technology. Now, with the fleet awake, the game was over. The Serpentine delegate whispered. They never left the apex. We were merely fattened livestock. The Kroll ambassador shuddered. If this is only their opening move. The final command. On the Iron Seraph's bridge, Elias straightened. Transmit to all systems, he said. His voice carried across every channel in the sector, smooth, almost amused, yet laced with iron. Ladies, gentlemen, esteemed species of the galaxy. Humanity has returned. We bring with us old debts, old flames, and very old ships. You may be frightened, or angry, or confused. Perfectly natural. But I assure you, our intentions are, as always, polite. He let the pause stretch. However, misunderstand this, polite does not mean harmless. He raised his hand. Commenced the second wave. The Iron Seraph fleet advanced, wings unfolding like angels of war. The galaxy trembled. And humanity smiled.